Jai Baba, everyone. Um, Tonight, we have a very special guest speaker, a very dear friend of mine, Meherwan Mistry. Meherwan was born in a very privileged family that was very close to Baba. His great uncle was Framroze Dadachanji, who was Baba's first secretary. And Meherwan lived in very close proximity to Baba. Growing up in his adolescent years, he spent many wonderful summers at Prasad and had many wonderful experiences, I'm sure. So, Meherwan, without further ado, welcome, and I give it over to you.
Jai Baba, folks.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Now, if you have any questions about the particular questions about our association with Baba and companionship during the times with Baba, and this starts from my grandparents' time. So I am a third generation Baba lover, and we are currently ongoing with two more. So there are 5 generations of Baba lovers as of today, since Baba's time. But I can only speak of the first 3 of my family. So if there's anything in particular that you are interested to know, then feel free to ask.
Betty, you have
wondered
if go ahead.
Who your parents were, her parents' names.
My parents were Roda and Jim Mistry. Roda was the Dadachanji before she married. And so that's how that side of the family, Dadachanji family, is the one half of it. And my dad's is the Mistry, and that's the other half of it. And my mom, she was the paternal niece, grandniece. No, paternal niece of Framroze Dadachanji, Chanji, not grandniece. So that's how the relationship goes. So her father, Naoroji, was my grandpa, and Chanji becomes my grand uncle. So that's the relationship. Now, I never met Chanji, so whatever I can talk about Chanji is what I heard through the family members and what I have read. But Naoroji, his brother, his elder brother by 8 years, I can talk about because I met him for many years and had association with him for many years, which I recall. And about my parents and about myself and my 2 brothers, Framroze, Falu is going by the name of Falu, and Sarosh. We all 3 met Baba and his Bandi and spent time with him. Especially during the summer months in Guru Prasad from the time of late 50s, 57 to 67, a period of around 10 years. During the summer months when we would be on vacation from school. So that's the opportunity we got to meet with Baba. So these 3 phases I can talk about. When I look back on this 3 generations, the past generations, I realize that for the entire Dadachanji family was very fortunate that every one single members of that family loved Baba. Can't say the same for on my father's side. He was one of 7 children, and only him, and later on his elder sister started to accept Baba, and her 2 children too. But it was for a short while. But the entire rest of the family, they knew of Baba, they even had his darshan, and yet they could not accept him. Because to them it was outrageous, the claim of Baba. Baba said he's God in human form, and that claim was just too hard for them to accept. So even they're strict Zoroastrians, and for them God is Aura Mazda, and the Prophet Zoroaster was the was a prophet. He himself never called himself God. So how can this man come along and call himself God? So that was an outrageous statement for them to accept. But that's how what truth is. It's hard to accept, especially if you have a closed mind. So anyway, so that my dad was the only member of that family besides the one sister who came much later on to accept Baba. By that time, Baba had dropped the body. So they met Baba, but at the same time didn't accept him. So didn't have much opportunity to meet with him. And of course, my grandpa, my dad's father, he was a very simple man, and he accepted that. He always respected and Baba, and would even at my mother's behest would even take his name. We roll the rosary with his name. My mother said, "Why don't you do this?" And he would follow that. He was very simple-minded and gullible too. He would read anything in the newspaper and follow the advice that they gave, any cures, anything like that. So he also turned to Baba. But these were the only three members from the Mistry family. And then I looked further down in my youth, and I had so many friends from childhood, school, when I used to play cricket at the Gymkhana, in college. They all knew about Baba because it was a small community in Pasir Colony. They saw Baba's pictures everywhere in the house when they came, but they didn't even bother to ask. No interest or even curiosity to ask about Baba. So I look back and say, well, they knew, but none of them were influenced by Baba, so to speak, outwardly, as far as my this thing of observation goes. So, and then on my wife's side, this is my wife Zenobia right here. Huh? Say hello.
Hey, Papa.
Yeah. So on her side of the family, her mother took an interest in Baba, and then she would go to Baba meetings with my parents in Bombay when they were still living there, and she used to even go for the Amar Tithis celebration. Those times Amar Tithis were very rough. It was outside in the tents, not like now. You had to sleep on the soil with a little bedding there, and it would rain. You'd get drenched. It was all outside public toilets. She was never accustomed to these kind of a situation, and she willingly put up with it. And she would come for this Amar Tithi celebration, and she took to Baba. And then Zenobia has three sisters, and her eldest sister also has taken to Baba. So that's the refreshing part of it. But none of my friends, so many friends I had, professional colleagues, whenever they would come to our house, they would see Baba pictures in every room, but not even a question about Baba. So knowing about him, and many of them even met Baba, and yet never benefited from that contact. So in the words of Mani, she would say, better luck next life. So the end goal is the same for everybody. It's just a question of time. So that's the only difference. So briefly, I've described both sides of the family and how one was fortunate. It's the great felicity of Baba lovers to accept who he says he is. It's a great fortune. But it's not just a fortune that comes from, it has come from previous lifetimes, many lifetimes of effort to be ready to accept that. It's not easy to accept Baba and believe in him for who he says he is. So in that sense, all Baba lovers are very blessed and fortunate.
Just for those of you who don't know, our present chairman of the trust, Falu, better known as Falu, is Meherwan's younger brother. Yeah. And then there's another one, Sarosh. So Meherwan, did you get named by Baba?
Yeah, all three of us were named by Baba.
Yep. That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I was about 8 days old, and and Baba happened to come to Bombay at that time. And my mother was still in the hospital. In those days, they used to keep the mothers in the hospital for like 30, 40 days after birth. But it's not that they, just to give the mother a rest from going back home and starting the whole household chores and the work. So it was not hospital itself. It was like a what would you call, like a where you would stay and rest, and the meals would be prepared for you, and you'd get, so it would rest the mother for a little while she was nursing the baby, and then she would go home and back to the routine of the household chores and taking care of the baby. So that gave the mother a break. So during that time, Baba happened to come to Bombay and was staying at my aunt's place. My aunt was Arnavaz. Arnavaz is Roda's sister. They had a family of 7 kids. And Roda was the third sister, the youngest sister. Anna was the eldest. So she had just delivered. I was 88 days old. And then Baba was to leave the following day. So she wanted to have Baba's darshan. So she left the home, the hospital. But they told her that if you leave, then you can't come back. Then you have to go back home to your place. And she agrees, as long as I can meet Baba. And so that's the time I met Baba as a young baby, and she gave the baby to Baba, and Baba put me in the lap, and then said his name is Meherwan. So that's how I was named, and my brother was named the same way. He was a telegram was sent. Baba also was in Bombay at that time, but he left that day. That day he had left, and my mother, we would stand on the street to be Baba's bye-bye. So my mother had stood on the side of the road. When the car would pass, the car would stop. They would take Baba's darshan and say bye-bye to Baba, and then Baba would leave. So the car had stopped there, and she was pregnant, but she was still 3 weeks, at least more than 3 weeks or something like that, still for the delivery to happen. So Baba looks at my mother and says, "Oh, when is the baby due?" So Baba, it's still a while. So Baba just snapped his finger like that. And then my mother crossed the road and then went back to the other side. And then Baba's car went on to Mirasad. That night, my mother went into labor. And
did do this.
at one click of his fingers, and Falu was born the next day in the morning. And the telegram was sent to Baba. And Baba said that a boy was born. And Baba said, "With much love, name him Framroze." So Baba named him Framroze. And the same thing happened to Sarosh too. Baba named him Sarosh. We were all named by Sarosh. And Baba named a lot of kids at that time. It was not unique. What I'm trying to say is it's not unique, but it's still I feel privileged. And I never thought of it that way until many years later. Actually, I had grown up. I said, who in our lifetimes do we name besides our own kids? We name our cats, our dogs, things like whatever we think is our own, we name. So if we belong to him, then he can name us. So it was a privilege to be named by him. Yeah. So anybody, if we belong to him, whether he has named us or not, we still belong to him. That is the important thing, not the given name, but to belong to him is the most important thing that we can achieve in life.
Yeah.
And belonging to him is not an easy thing, because then we cannot belong to anything else or anybody else. not to your own religion, not to your own nationality, not to your own ethnicity, not to anything. All that has to be given up to belong to him alone. It doesn't mean that we have no relationships. We'll always have those relationships out there, but to keep them in perspective, that we belong to him alone. And all these things that we have are there for a little while, and they will, sooner or later, we will have to give them up. Another life. We'll have many more relationships. And we'll have to give them up too. And slowly by slowly become detached. Detachment is not outward, but the mental detachment. Bear your full responsibilities and obligations, but at the same time become detached from them. And that is the thing that Baba wants us to do. Live in this world, at the same time be detached from it mentally. So that's how it got named. And then we grew up in a Baba family. So that was not a big, how to come into Baba is what fascinates me. How people come to Baba, their stories. How they sometimes just see a picture or they hear about Baba and they start to believe in him and love him. How is that all possible? My mind would think. They accept him unconditionally. They don't come for anything. And how did that happen? It just didn't happen in this one lifetime. There were many, many lifetimes before the preparation, the tilling of the mind's consciousness. And when it is ready, he comes and sows the seeds. And when the seed is sown and if the soil is tilled, the seed has a chance to grow. And that's how love is born and the game begins. The game between the lover and the beloved begins. So that's how it is. So it's a lifetime of preparations that has gone by. Although it seems so sudden in this one life, right? And hopefully we'll have the same sort of a relationship if we continue to keep the connection with him. That is the next most important thing, is to maintain that connection with him. The link. The link is not outward, it's an inner link. So a lot of people who have not met Baba feel, oh, I've not met Baba. So, but the important thing is the inner link. His presence is there with us all the time, whether he's in the body or not in the body. That is eternal existence. Does not require the body. Only to manifest that body is there. And it happens once in 700 to 1400 years, the Avtaric events. So, but his presence is always there. So once you have him as your master, you require no other. That's him. In different times, he'll be known by different names, but he's the same one master. Like Baba has said, I'm that same one, the same ancient one. And we are blessed to have him as our master.
Yeah. So Meherwan, we have a few people with questions. So Tina, you want to go ahead?
Yes, Meherwan, I know there was some incident with a traffic violation, and could you tell that story?
Well, Tina, that story is a long story.
I
And,
know, but we got all night.
yeah, but well, I'll tell you in a very short synopsis of it. It was not a traffic violation or anything like that, but I know what you're talking about. But I keep getting asked that same thing story.
Yeah, it's a
Anyway,
great story.
yeah, it's a good story. Yes, it is. Okay, the gist of it is this, and it has two instructive values to that story too. What had happened, I think it was in 77, 78. I was doing my surgical residency, and I was working at a hospital doing my rotation there, and a doctor in that hospital was called on an emergency call to the. I don't know the doctor, but he was called on an emergency call, and he was driving down the highway, New Jersey Turnpike, not Turnpike, Parkway, and his car broke down. So he was parked on the side of the road, now not knowing what to do, and all of a sudden he sees this car, a police car behind him, come approach him, and then the officer gets out and asks him what's the problem, and he says, I'm on an emergency call and I have to get to this hospital fast. A child is in distress. So the state trooper gives him a ride in his car to the hospital, to the emergency room. And as they sit in the car, they start talking. And as they're talking, they ask questions to each other. He says, oh, I'm going to this hospital, St. Michael's. Oh, see, oh, I have my cousin, he works there. So the doctor says, who is this? So he says, his name is Dr. Mistry. So, oh, yeah, I've heard that name on the loudspeaker. They used to page, before we had those beepers, they had this paging system. They would page you on the PA system, paging system. So, oh yeah, I've heard his name on the pages. What a funny name, Dr. Mistry. So I thought it was a code he's telling him. I thought it was a code. You know, say Dr. So some code word that they're using. But then I realized it was a doctor's name actually. So he's telling me this, and this is what happened. When I get a call from this doctor in the hospital. This Dr. Gabriola. His name was Dr. Gabriola. And so I was on a call that day at the hospital, and I was eating my dinner, and his call interrupts, and I say, and he introduces himself, and he says, "Oh, I'm so glad I finally got to talk to you. I've been trying to reach you for a while, and I wanted to thank you on behalf of your cousin who helped me out." And I'm saying, what is he talking about, this guy? I mean, he's a state trooper. He says a New Jersey state trooper, and then he narrates to me all this story. So now I said, I think, doctor, you're mistaken. I don't have a cousin who's a state trooper. He says, yes, it is you. It was you. It was definitely you. He said it was you. And so I forgot to thank him. When he took me to the emergency room, it was a situation that I could take care of. Everything went well, but I forgot to thank him, and that's the reason I'm calling you, because you are his cousin, so you can thank him on my behalf. So I said, okay, but doctor, I don't have a cousin who is a state trooper, but if I find out that I do have one, I will thank him on your behalf. And I was happy I got rid of him so that I could finish my dinner. Oh, but before that happened, while this is going on, this piqued my curiosity, and I said, he said he was my cousin. He says, so what did he look like? I asked him. He says, oh, he looked like a regular Italian guy. He's telling me. Italian guy. So now my curiosity gets even more. So he says, is this guy genuine, or is this just playing along with me? He says, what kind of a car were you in? He says, it's a Pontiac. We all have these Pontiacs. It was a Pontiac. And did you? I'm asking this doctor, and the doctor was saying, and what was his barracks? Where did you? How do you know it was a state trooper? He says, well, it was right there on the car, Bloomfield Barracks, New Jersey State Police, Bloomfield Barracks. Well, what else can it be? So, and I'm sounding foolish asking all these silly questions. Yeah, then the only one direct question I asked him, I says, he said he looked like a regular Italian guy. I said, did he have a mustache? He said, oh yes, he had a big bushy mustache. That's what, that's the, yeah, big bushy mustache. Yeah. Anyway, so that he was relieved that he told me that, and then I was relieved that at least now I can finish my dinner. But now I got something stirred up in me. Who is this cousin of mine? So then I knew that this was, while this was happening too, I get a sense within me as I'm talking. I can't describe that feeling, but it was like I knew that what he was talking about, this person that he was referring to was Baba. Within myself, I knew that. Because as I'm holding the phone, I'm talking to him, I get that feeling. And it is I can't describe that feeling. But I was convinced, there was no doubt in my mind that who he was talking. He himself didn't know what he was describing, but he would describe to me, and I knew. And that the moment he said that he had one big bushy mustache, that's the time I knew that he was describing him. And he had said a regular Italian guy. Anyway, so that happened, and when that happened, what had happened was I was at that time, my wife and my youngest daughter, my eldest daughter, had gone to India, and I was a little lonely at that time. So at that time, but this incident happened. So he was reassuring me that he's always around. He's always there. That was that. And but see what happens, how the mind works. In spite of having this convincing experience, momentary, few seconds, and I knew. There was no question about it. There was no explanations required, nothing. I now almost finished my residency 2 years later. And I said, I got to meet this Gabriela before I leave this place. I'm going to go. I finish my residency and get a job. So I find out more about him. He's a pediatrician. He works out of St. Michael's Hospital in New Jersey at that time. And so I find out his office address and I make an appointment to see him. I said, Dr. Gabriel, oh yeah, I remember I talked to you. And it was completely, yes. Did you thank your cousin for me? I said, yes, I did. And this is also what happened. Now my mind is questioning still. So I go to the barracks myself, the New Jersey Bloomfield Barracks. It was not too far from where I lived in Elizabeth. And I go there, and what do I see? All those state police cars lined up there are all Pontiacs. One after the other, they're all Pontiacs. So now what to do? So then I remember what I did. On an index card, there was a desk sergeant there, whoever he was. I said, would you mind if I put an index card here on your notice board? It's about, I have a cousin I have a state trooper here who says I'm his cousin. So maybe I'll put up this so he can contact me. She said, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that. So on that index card, I wrote down, if a state trooper knows a Dr. Mistry, please contact him at this number. And I put it down on that notice board, a bulletin board that they had. Never got a call back, nothing like that. Then I go and see Dr. Gabriel. I want to make sure. So what do? I take a book of Baba. That it was a beloved book. It had that pictures of Baba in that book, Beloved. And in that, I thought, Italian guy, which picture of Baba looks like an Italian guy? So it was the picture that he's standing on a ship with his with his hands, and he's wearing a white suit, and with a beret.
Beret cap.
Yeah, beret cap. I said, he looks like an Italian guy here. So, and I show him picture after picture, this Dr. Gabriel, and he does not recognize him. I was heartbroken. How many pictures of Baba I've showed this guy, and he doesn't recognize one, and yet he described to me everything. Like, so then I leave. What else can I do? But then it occurred to me that what I did was totally wrong. It is, why did I have to pursue something which I was convinced of? Why did I question that? To satisfy my own curiosities? Once you know, then you don't want to pursue that. It itself shows a lack of faith. And conviction is greater than faith. If I had conviction, then why was I acting like this? just for my own, satisfy my own curiosity. It was not the right thing to do for me. When he had given me that conviction. Why did I do that? So that was the lesson I learned from. So now don't ask me again now for the state trooper story. Now, this is the 10th time I've said it now.
You know what? I had forgotten about it, but I'm glad Tina remembered it because it's such a wonderful story. I think it's just, I was so wowed when I first heard it. So I fully remember that.
Learn. There was once is that he's always with us. He's always with us.
That's right. That's right.
Don't keep questioning. Once you know,
You
that's,
know,
yeah,
that's all.
So that was instructive.
Yeah.
All
right. So now we have Betty next. Betty. You're muted, Betty.
I just thought Meher might want to ask. I've already had one question. I would
Oh.
like to have another one, but
I'm sorry. I saw your hand up. Okay. Okay, Meher, you go.
Okay, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Meherwan, I wanted to ask you, this is a very silly question I'm asking you. Do you go to for Amar Titi because now Falu is a chairman? Do you go regularly?
No, we don't go regularly. The last time we were there was I think was in
I said, let me just ask you that. I wanted to know.
in
Okay.
2019.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, it is very good to go if you have the chance. And but like anything else, it's even Baba would when you go to Baba Center meetings. We used to, when you were in, it was just started. Baba Center had started in Bombay at that time. We were kids, and in the beginning, many people just didn't go. But then Baba himself would ask, he says, "Do you go to the meetings? Do you go for these?" So when Baba showed his interest that we should go, everybody would say, "Baba, we can remember you from our homes." Yeah, that's true. You remember him every day in your life. That's true. But here you are getting a chance to be with him with other of his lovers. So his presence is even more strong. So you get to the benefit of that. And the concentration is solely on him. You talk of him, you sing about him, you see pictures about him, hear him discourses or messages. So the concentration, collective concentration is there on him. Yeah. And Baba encouraged that. So then we started to go. And then I remember in the beginning, I didn't like talks. They would stand up and talk, and then they'll give their interpretation of what Baba had said. I mean, I understand very clearly what Baba has said. I don't need many interpretations of it. And things I don't understand, I accept that too. I don't need any further explanations of it. It's beyond me, I will not accept. That's fine. It will come in time. When I'm ready, I will be able to understand that too. So I didn't too much care for the talks, but at the same time, what would happen is I enjoyed the music programs that there were, and I enjoyed that. And then slowly by slowly, I would attend regularly on my own. And Baba would encourage us all to do that.
So we have Elizabeth.
We go when we have the chance to go, and that has nothing to do with Falu. We go. I've not seen Falu since the last time we were there in 2019.
Somebody else had Elizabeth. You had your hand up.
Yes, I just well, it's nice to meet you. I've heard about you for years and never met you. So since you don't like to repeat Baba's stories, what is your favorite Baba story that might be a rare one that you could tell us?
Oh, Elizabeth, I'll tell you stories, but the state trooper story I've told so many times. Every time I hope you don't ask me about that one.
No. Tell us something new, something that you haven't told before.
You have to give me some hint. I just can't come
about the intuition. How about something about intuition?
Intuition.
When to believe it and when not, when to question what you're thinking might be intuition. In other words, it's related to your conviction, which you went through with the state trooper, but it would be interesting to hear what you have to say about that.
Conviction is something where you don't have a doubt. Baba distinguishes faith and distinctions. His faith is the fruit of one's devotion to him. One's faith in Baba is the fruit of one's devotion in him. But how does that faith come to begin with? It is his love. His love gives the faith, and that faith gives the devotion. And the devotion, as it increases, leads to the grace of his conviction. Baba has said that faith is the fruit of man's devotion, and grace is his gift to man. Conviction is his gift to man. Conviction is his gift. It happened like that once. A very interesting story that we can relate with faith and conviction. It happened when Baba had just started up the Meherwan ashram. So that had to be in the 20s, and they were digging wells there for the water, and they would not strike water. So they would go and dig somewhere else. They will dig more and no water there. Dig here, no water there. Now, in all this is going on, these farmers from the village come and approach Baba and say, Baba, please, the rains have not come, and we have not hit water. We have reached such a height, like so many feet. And so we have come for your blessings to get water. So Baba said, how many feet have you dug so far? So he said, Baba, we have come up to so many feet. Baba said, all right, dig some 6-7 feet more. Something like that, Baba said to them. And so they're very happy that Baba told them that. And then they go and they start digging. And sure enough, they hit water. And the next day, everybody comes with the band, the villagers come with the band procession. They bring fruits and whatever as their offerings of thanks. And so now they are very happy that Baba blessed them with this water. And then they're all going back. So now one of the mandali is, the early mandali is to Baba, what is this going on here? We are working morning till evening, digging here, digging there, you make us dig everywhere, and there is no water. And they come and then you tell them to dig a few feet more, and they hit water. And then the funny thing that happened was after Baba told them to dig a few feet more, and then they all left, Baba himself starts this. What will happen if they don't find water? I told them to dig for 6-7 more feet. If they don't find water, they will lose all faith in me. Baba is now himself putting these questions to them. So everybody is looking and saying, why? We don't know. So Baba seems to be a little concerned that if he told them to dig for so many more feet, and after digging, they're not going to find water, they're going to lose faith. And they came with all this faith. And then they did hit the water. They came and they celebrated before Baba. They offered their thanks. And this guy, the mandali man, is very upset. Baba saying that you make us work like this, and then so then Baba tells him this incident. He says, they had faith, and their faith was that I would give them water, and their faith was rewarded. It was their faith that gave them the water. But you are not here for water. You have come with a conviction in me. And they are both blessed. Faith is blessed and conviction is blessed. But conviction is double blessed because faith can always falter and waver. If they didn't get water, they would lose faith. But conviction is whether you have water or you don't have water, you'll still be with them. So that is the difference between faith and conviction. Conviction is God's gift to man. Faith is the fruit of man's devotion to God. It's a big difference. So this is the difference between faith and conviction. And once you have the conviction, like I said, what I did with the state to question and follow up on that is totally unnecessary. Intuition, yes, we have intuition too. Intuition, it's innate. It's different from intellect in the sense that it has nothing to do with intellect. And a totally ignorant person can have intuition, a very strong intuition. So it's totally separate from that. And intuition, if we listen to our inner selves, intuition, it will guide us and in the correct way. And most of the times, the things which we are guided to, we don't like because it's a difficult thing to do, the harder thing to do. But our intuition, the more we listen to it, the more it will guide us. But we tend to disregard it because we don't like what it tells us. So when we don't like what it tells us, we keep ignoring it, and what happens is the sound, the inner sound becomes fainter and fainter and fainter. Our intuition becomes lesser and lesser. But one who is a very intuitive person is the one who listens to it and pays heed to it. And intuition is nothing more than the heart speaking. Mind speaking is the intellect. Heart speaking is the intuition. And so that's what it is.
Tony, you have a question for Meherwan? Tony, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I got here so late. I was reconciling a bank account. I thought, oh my God. I just want to call to say, Meherwan, it's such a delight and a thrill to see you. And when in my early years with Baba, was when you came over and you were interning in New York, and you brought so much joy of Baba and spontaneity and naturalness and really strange stories about some of the doctors you worked with. And it's just, you're still the same in that sense. Same person I met then. And you did tell me back in 1980, I guess it was, you did tell me about your state trooper story. And it happened that I wound up getting a 3-month contract at the UN, and they would drive, I could get a taxi to go home if I stayed past midnight. And I won't tell this as a long story, but I had a taxi driver who drove me home, started talking to me about his family in India, and it didn't look like Baba, but it felt like Baba. And I said, no, couldn't be, because I'm not feeling the bliss. And after he left, there were reasons that made it very clear it was Baba. And I was totally just, it was an amazing thing because I recognized it. And I thought about trying to follow up. I had the taxi guy's number and his signature. And I remembered what you said, that it was a mistake going to the state trooper's office, that I should have just have the faith and trust that Baba came and visited, came and did this. And that's what and thanks to your story, I never, but I didn't turn in the receipt for my receipt, the receipt for to be reimbursed. I kept the receipt with the signature. Anyway, it's wonderful to see you. It's so wonderful.
Nice to see you, Tony. Yeah.
Jay Bob.
Betty, your hand is still up. Do you have another question?
Back to your family, Meherwan. Now,
Okay.
your mother was several generations Baba family, but your father was not. His family was not followers of Baba. I'm wondering, one, how did they meet, and was it a difficult process for your father to accept Baba, and did Baba have any involvement in their relationship when they were getting together?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's a great story.
My dad was the youngest of 7 kids, and he was a very young, handsome man, very athletic, and a champion table tennis and badminton player. And when he was young, he had that American motorcycle called Indian. It's no longer made now, or is it made? I don't know. when I see those, he had an Indian motorcycle, and he had lots of girlfriends would be after him too. So he never thought of getting married. He never had that. He was not inclined to get married. He was enjoying his life. He was totally not interested in spirituality and nothing to do with religion. But at the same time, his family was very orthodox religious. So he would, just to keep them happy and not pester him, he would go along with the outside formalities, like they would wear the sadra and the kasti and the thread. But he wouldn't do any of these. He would just to show them that he's wearing, so that he's following the rituals. So that kind of personality he was when he was young. So now he's almost now in his 30s, and his family, everybody's gotten married. They left the house. He's the only guy staying with us, the two parents. So they moved to a smaller place. So from a bigger, at those times it was easy to move. So they moved to a smaller place, a smaller apartment with 2 bedrooms. And that's where they were staying, next to where my mother used to stay, in the house next to where my mother's family stayed. So that's probably how they got to know each other. So that's the scenario that's set up before. And like I said, everybody in the Parsi colony, they knew about Meher Baba and this Dadachanji family, that they are the followers of this guru, Meher Baba, called himself the God in human form. Anyways, so they would talk derisively and ridicule, and we knew that. Then what happened was, I don't know exactly what happened, but how they met. But when they met and they were going out together, Baba was one of the occasions when the family members had met Baba. He would inquire, how's the family, how's this, how's that. So they would tell him what's new. So he was, well, Baba, Roda is seeing a boy. His name is Meherwan Mistry. So Baba said, he's a very good boy. Meherwan Mistry was the first time that the name was mentioned to Baba, and very good boy he is. And he says, when are they planning to get married? Then the next question was, when are they planning to get married? So I said, Baba, they have just met. The question of marriage, not even a proposal has been made yet. So anyway, so that this went on for a few months. So Baba showed approval of my dad from the very beginning, that it was mentioned, his name was mentioned to him. And then a few months down the road, my dad must have proposed to my mom. So my mom says to him, well, I love you, but first I'll have to ask Baba's permission. So my dad was taken aback. He says, I understand you asking your parents' permission, but you are going to ask Baba's permission? He says, yes. But whatever we do, we take his permission. She says, but what if he says no? Then you won't marry me? She says, no, then I won't marry you. So when he heard that, but see, open mind. When he heard that, he says, all right. He accepted that. And he knew what his position would be in relationship to Baba, my mom, him, and Baba. And he accepted that. So that's open mind. That requires an open mind. Someone would not even consider. Anyway, so see what happens now. So then the next occasion comes when the family members go to meet, and this is what's new happening now. Says, Baba, they have had a proposal of that. Baba approves that. He says they must get married. They must get married in August. He gives a month. He gives them the time. They must get married in August. And then he gives a subtle warning. He says, but if they don't get married in August, then I don't know, it may not work out. Now see, Baba is saying this. I don't know. It may not work out. Now, one who knows everything is posing a question like this. He said, they must get married, but they will select any day they want, but in August they should get married. So now the roles are reversed. When they come back, they tell my mom. Now my mom goes and tells my dad that Baba has accepted. He agrees to the marriage, but he wants the marriage to take place in August. And then she also tells me, Baba also said that if it does not take place in August, then he doesn't know, it may not work out. So now my dad goes and tells his family that he wants to get married. So they are overjoyed. Oh, finally he's going to settle down. They're most happy that he's going to get married. But then he breaks the news that it's going to be, I want to get married in August. And this is happening sometime in May. He says, what? August? No one gets married in August. It's the rainy season. It's the monsoons here. It's an outdoor, marriage is outdoor affairs. So who would want to get married in August? And all sorts of these excuses. Why can't you wait for 2 more months? Why can't you wait for 3 more months? Get married in November, December. We are very happy you're getting married, but why can't you wait for 2-3 more months? So now how to explain to them that about that Baba had mentioned that. He knew that they would not be able to accept that. So he says, well, if you want me to get married, I'm going to get married in August, otherwise I'm not going to get married. So he said, no, okay. If you insist on getting married in August, get married in August. And we can always have an indoor affair. So they have a marriage inside a hotel, they book a hotel, and they get married in August. So this is how it happened. They got married in the rainy season when no one gets married. And then for the honeymoon, they go to Panchgani. Now just imagine, in Panchgani, it rains a lot. It's a hill station. It rains a lot. And in the monsoons, it rains even more. So they go to the hotel. The hotel is empty. They are the only guests there. In the entire hotel, they are the only 2 people. And it's raining, so they can't get out of the rooms. So after 2 or 3 days, they are really cloistered in that room and they don't know what to do. So they decide this is too much. It's good to be alone when you're on your honeymoon, but just in one room for so many days. So they decide, well, might as well go to Pune. Pune is better than. So we'll go to Pune for the remaining part of the honeymoon. So they decide to do that and they come to Pune. And when they come to Pune, they notify their families that we have cut short our stay in Panchgani because it was too much rain and we couldn't even go outdoors. And so we are going to be in Pune for this one. So then at that time, Baba was having the housewarming ceremony of Meherwan, the bungalow that Baba stayed in with the women there in that bungalow there, which you all probably are familiar with. So that housewarming was going to happen at that time in August, end of August it was. So Baba has invited all of us, and then so you don't come back to Bombay, we will pick you up on the way to Meherwan, and then we'll all go together. And so it happened that they went all together to Meherwan. So even before they came back home from the honeymoon, they went to Meherwan, and that was the first time my dad met Baba. This was in August of 1948. So now my dad is a very, he's very frank. He won't mince words. He'll say things exactly the way he sees things. And so when he first meets Baba, the very first question Baba asks is, do you love me? So he's taken aback. This is what? This man I'm meeting for the first time and he's asking me whether I love him. So he was totally thrown off balance. But then he says, Baba, this is the first time that I'm meeting you. So I honestly can't say I love you. But see, now this is the open mind. But as time passes and I get to know you, I may be able to love you. So Baba was very pleased with that answer. She said, open mind. very pleased with the answers. And so it happened. My mother would be staying with my dad's parents there. In the beginning, they would have in the house there would be Zoroaster's picture there. So my mom and my dad knew that when in my mom's apartment, Baba's picture everywhere. So she asked my mom before they had gotten married, and she would. She says, when we get married, and will you put Baba's picture in the room? So my dad said, in our room, you can put Baba's picture anywhere you want. It's our room. But then my mom knew also that would not, they would not be happy with they would not be happy with that. So she says, I don't need to put Baba's picture anywhere. She took a small picture of Baba and put it in a cupboard. And every time she would open a cupboard, the picture would be there. And she would open the cupboards 8-10 times a day. Take out clothes, take out money, take out this. So she would be seeing Baba. This picture is just an outward thing to remind you of him, but we have to remember him from inside. So when she told this to my dad says, no, you put Baba's picture wherever you want in this room. It's our room, and you can put where you want. So then she started putting a picture, small picture frame of Baba in a side corner where she would pray in front of that picture. Anyway, what happened is slowly by slowly, my dad's father did not object to that, but his wife did. His wife, my dad's mom, she was very orthodox. And within a year or so afterwards, she passed away. And so my grandpa tells my mom, you can put Baba's picture anywhere you want. Now, he also knew that. See how they know that you can put Baba. And slowly by slowly, it took over. One wall, Baba's picture, another room, Baba's picture, and it was all over the place, Baba's picture. So that's how it was. So it's not the outward. Outward is only to remind us. When we see Baba's picture, we think of it. Involuntarily, without even we see his picture, we think of it. So that's an aid to us. When the time comes, when we think of him so often, remember him so often, we remember him in our sleep. So that's how it happens. But it takes time. And this helps us. It's a little, what do you call it, an aid to remembering him, outward form. Yeah. So that's how that came. And that also, his coming to Baba, it took time. And Baba gave him a lot of opportunity to be with him. That's the other thing. And Baba liked his company. He was a jovial type of a guy, but he liked that. And he, as I said, he was not spiritual minded at all. He was not interested in spirituality at all. But he never interfered either. Anything to do with Baba, he would go along with it. And the loving came later on, slowly. And then he did a lot of printing work for Baba later on in the years as the time passed. He got to stay with Baba so many times.
Meherwan, can you talk a little about the times that you spent in Guru Prasad with Baba?
Yeah, but if you have any specific this thing, then I can say.
When you played games with him, or whether it was cards or any other time, events, or yeah. So tell us.
Yeah, before I move on from my dad, he used to tease my dad. Baba used to tease my dad. He says, every time he would be there with my mom, they would be there with Baba, and he would look at my mom and says, Rodi loves me more than she loves you. Very innocently, he would say to him, Rodi loves. Baba used to call my mom Rodi. Her name was Roda, but Baba's name for her was Rodi. Rodi loves me more than she loves you. So She would say, yes, Baba, yes, I know. So, but he would tease him in that way. And saying about that, when I was a young kid, I remember, I must be 5 years, maybe 6 years old. When he would be in front of Baba, he would look at me, and my mom would be right behind me, and he would say, "Do you love me more, or do you love your mom more?" You tell me this. So then my mom would be there, and she would be pinching me from back. She should give the proper answer. So I would say, "Baba, I love you more." So he would be very happy, like a small kid, very happy. See, he loves me more than he loves. But then one day I was caught off guard, and I said, but then no, Baba persisted. He said, "But you just love your mother a little bit more." This time he said, "Just a little bit more." And I said, "Yes, Baba." So when I said that, my mom pinched me. She says, "You should have said that." Then she tells me afterwards, "You shouldn't have always say you love him more." So even if you don't like something, or even if you always say yes to him, in short, you may not like what he says, but say yes to him. And that's the beginning of how you learn to obey. So she would, but I remember that you love me more or you love your mom more. And then if I say him, he would be happy. But then you say, but just a little bit more, right? Baba's expressions were so charming. It would captivate anybody. You would just keep looking at that person. That was my grandpa's, my dad's father, impression of Baba. The first time he met Baba for a touch, and he said, "Oh, what an amazing, what an amazing radiance." That was his reaction. Baba gave him an apple. Well, Baba gave him an apple, so he takes it home. Oh, and I was standing behind my grandpa in line, and I'm waiting for my apple now from Baba. And Baba did take an apple. He took an apple, and then instead of giving it to me, I'm waiting there for him to hand me the apple. He looks and then he puts it away. And I was taken aback. I said, "What? I didn't get an apple from Baba. My grandpa did, but he didn't give it to me." Anyway, so nothing I could do. So when we went back home, my grandpa says, "All right, I'll show you my apple. Baba gave it with me." My mom says, "No, he gave it to you. You have to eat it all, and the skin too." She made him eat the skin of the apple too, eat all of it. As Baba gave prasad to him, he must eat it. So I missed that apple from Baba. But then later on, several years later, I remember, it was in group prasad in the 60s now. I must be in my teens. And we used to stay in a hotel right next to Baba. It was called Bobo's Hotel. It was actually a palace, smaller than Guru Prasad, and it had been turned into a hotel. And we were staying in one of those rooms. And next to in the big garden there was these trees, the jambu trees, and there were these fruits that we would shake the branches, and it would just fall down. The fruit, the size of like about 1.5 inches, 2 inch. And Baba would be eating those. So we would gather them and wash them, dry them. And then I would put it on the back of, my mom would put it in a container, and I would take it on my bicycle and take it to Guru Prasad for Baba. So one day Baba was sitting in Guru Prasad, eating those jambus. He had a little bowl by the side of his table, and he would put a jambu in his mouth, and then he would eat it. And then he would take out the seed and put it on the side plate. So this is how Baba would eat. And he would eat 4 or 5 jambus. And then one day he ate the jabu and took the seed and then offered that seed to me. I was sitting right in front of him. So, and when he did that, I knew what he was offering the seed to me. So I got up and took it. And then I knew what to do. I instinctively knew what to do. And I had to eat it. So I put it in my pocket. I knew I couldn't eat it right there because it's impossible to eat that seed. It's so bitter. You choke on it. And not a word was exchanged. And so when I went back home, every time I would go back home to the hotel in the afternoon after Baba retired, this would be around like 4 o'clock. So when I went back, the first thing my mother would catch me. So before I would want to play, she would catch me and say, tell me everything that happened. She would debrief me on everything. So what do you want me to know? Baba played card, Baba did this. Yes, tell me whatever happened. So I would tell her, and I tried to finish that off. And now I said, oh yeah, he gave me the seed too. So you still have it? She's telling me, I said, yeah, I mean, I'm going to eat it, but I can't eat it all at once. So then I knew what I had to do. So I took a glass of water and took a piece of that seed and started chewing on it. And before it would complete, it's an astringent, it dries up your mouth, that seed. So I would just chew it and then swallow it with the water until that whole seed, that's a big seed there. And so I got to eat the jabu seed the Baba gave. So not the apple. So apple, my grandfather. But it was fun. It was, I look back at those moments and that's all I have left now.
Anybody
What
else?
was that? What was the name of that fruit? How do you spell it?
Jambu, Jambur, Jambu. But that's the Indian name for it. So I can't.
It's also pronounced Jamun, I think, Jamun.
Yeah.
Jamun.
Yeah, I found jamun, but I didn't know if it was the same thing you were talking
Yeah.
about.
It's a big fruit. It's much bigger than a berry.
Like a purplish berry.
Like a plum.
Yes.
It's supposed to be very high in potassium, helps prevent strokes and various other things. It's got a lot of nutritional benefits.
But I just got the seed of it.
Which is very bitter.
But I got it from Baba. That's the important thing.
I don't think you can get those in the United States, can you?
Oh,
I
yes.
doubt one-
Tons
I-
of trees in Florida.
Oh, okay, in Florida.
Yeah. Kept in Florida. Yeah.
Oh.
So,
It's tropical fruit, so you would have it in warmer climes.
Uh,
yeah. So
So Dinku, we have Dinku's hand up. Go ahead, Dinku. Dinku, do you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. Jai Baba. Hi, Meherwan.
Jai Baba.
I'm just curious, did Baba ever visit your home in Daulat Manzil?
No. Baba visited my mom's place, just in the building next to
Yeah.
Sorab
Sorab House.
Yes.
Yeah.
That place Baba visited several times. But Baba's women money, Mera money, they visited out where we stayed, the building next to it. Where I am my brother's school. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Any... Rich, go ahead.
I thought of something funny. I'm thinking, how lucky you are, because my mom wanted to throw me at somebody too when I was born. But you got too lucky. But anyway, I was going to say, so how did you meet your wife then? We got to keep this going.
Okay. Well, we live in the same the area, and where I used to play cricket, the gymkhana next door to where I lived in the apartment, and that was also very social. All events would take place there. The elderly people would play cards there. They would play billiards. You know, like the pool. And the badminton and table tennis, the ladies would play too. So that's how we got to meet. And there would be occasions there, festivities. So that's how we got to meet. And we knew each other for many years, almost 6-7 years before we got married. So yeah, at least 7 years. And then we got finally married in 1975. I came to the United States in 73. So it's been a long time. And now there are 3 generations after us. With 5 years. So that's how we got. And slowly by slowly, like I said, she came to Baba. She loves Baba dearly. Like I said, her mother loved Baba very much. And she was a fantastic cook too. I enjoyed her cooking. Yeah. And she when she would pray, she would have Baba's picture in front of her, in her. Yes. So there's little things from there I could pick out that she loved Baba. And like most importantly, she would even be interested enough to go for Baba meetings. And then the biggest of all was that she even went for the Amatiti. Like I said, Amatiti at those times were very strenuous task for an elderly person. And staying out in the outside, outdoors, it's very cold. Even the water it's not running water there. You have to go to common toilets, and so it's not easy for an elderly person. And she undertook all of these things. So what makes a person do all these things? Love, interest, a keen interest to make them bear all these things. So that's how it started. And then one of her her eldest daughter started to come into Baba, showing more and more interest. So it happens gradually.
I think we have Marion next. Marion, can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, thought I saw her hand up.
Oh, no, I pass. I'm very
Oh.
fascinated. I accidentally pushed that. I'm fascinated. Thank you.
Okay. Didn't want to miss you. Anyone else for a question to Meherwan? Meherwan, tell us about your games that you played with Baba, your card games, Laris. You were there for that, right? Or many times?
Yes. That game was a unique game. Yeah. Have you ever heard of that game being played anywhere else, Nargis? As I haven't, because it was a unique game, a very simple game. And the way it was played was that Baba would sit down, and then people around him would form a circle. And the person next to Baba on each side would be the opposing team. The persons next to them would be on Baba's team, and so forth. So you have to have an even number. And for most of the times, it would be like 12 people, 16 people at the most. When over a weekend, a lot of people would come over the weekends from Bombay. So at the most would go to like 20 people, something like that. So in the beginning, in this game, it was called La Risk. And the rules of the game there's only one rule. There was one rule was no cheating. And what was cheating? If you're not to look into the cards of your opposing, your partner next to you. But there was a difficult thing because everybody seated next to each other. Sometimes you can just casually just turn your face and happen to look into the other person's cards. So one had to be aware of that. So that was no cheating. And the other thing was that the losing team would have to bend forward. They would be all sitting down on the carpet, and the losing team members would have to bend forward and then rub their nose on the carpet like this. Yeah. And some would do it 2-3 times. Some would do it just a little scrub, and that's it. So each according to their own. There was no such rules for how many times you have to scrub the nose. and I had no interest in playing cards at all. So I was most happy just to deal the cards, and at the end of the game, when the game was over, just collect them from the center and then shuffle them and then deal the cards to the members. So this would go on for a while. Then Baba once told me, "Why don't you play?" I said, "Baba, this is okay. This is good for me, to shuffling and collecting." So Baba says, "But you play." I said, "Baba, I don't know how to play." Just Baba then tells me, "Learn." So then when he tells me that, then it was not hard to learn. I would sit next to my grandpa, he would be playing, and it would be I would just observe. I was very observant. I observed the smallest little things. And they're fresh in my memory, like it just happened just 2 days ago. But I forget what I ate last night or the night before, things like that. Short-term memory, not good, but long-term, very good. But that happens. Anyway, so I started learning to play cards. And then I would sit wherever I would get the chance to sit. But then I would notice something very strange happening. After a while, I would notice that every time my grandpa would land up in the opposing team, he would never be on Baba's team. And whenever he found himself to be seated in a position that he would make him on Baba's team, he would very quietly get up and go to the side of the person next to him and sit down next to him. So now that person next to him is on Baba's team, and he's the opposing team. And this went for a while, and I thought maybe this is why he didn't like that place. But wherever he would be sitting, if he found himself on Baba's team, he would just get up and sit next to the other person. One day, I said, "What's the matter with this old man?" So as we were walking back home from that afternoon, I said, "Grandpa, why is it that you always want to be on the opposite team? I notice that when you land up being on Baba's team, you get up and switch positions with the guy next to you so that you will be on the opposite team. And you know that the opposite team loses more than the Baba's team. At least Baba's team would win, but I mean, like maybe 60%, 40% would lose. So they would have to rub more times the rubbing of the noses. They would call it giso. Giso means to rub your noses. The call for rubbing the noses would be giso, rub your noses. And I would notice that some people would do it 2-3 times. Some people would just touch their nose on the ground and that's it. But my grandpa, this old man, is doing it once, twice, 5, 6, 7 times. Every time he would get a pink nose. His tip always be pink. So why does he do this? So when that occasion came, I said, not only that, I found that you sit on the opposite team, but I found that you are the last one to keep rubbing the nose. You do it 6, 7 times, and everybody else doesn't do it more than 2 or 3 times. Why do you have to do this? So I still remember, he shut me up in one sentence. He said, and he was a man of very few words. My grandpa, my Naoroji, he was Chanji's brother. In the whole day, he would speak 3 or 4 sentences. So whenever he talked, everybody shut up and just listened. What is he saying? What is this old man saying? So he was like that. So when he's telling me, do you know how fortunate it is to rub nose in front of Baba? He had thought of all of this out before he was doing this. So, do you know how fortunate it is to be able to rub your nose in front of Baba? So that's when I realized that he had this game plan to take full opportunity that he was getting and avail himself of that. So that's how this game was played, and everybody enjoyed it. To the enjoyment, the irony was that the losers were the real winners. The losers in this game were the real winners because they had the opportunity to rub the nose more. And there would come a time while the game was being played when Baba's team would be losing one after the other, a streak. And then Baba's team would start complaining to Baba. He says, "Baba, have mercy on our nose. It's too much now. we have to. So the Baba would say, all right. Then the next round when the card was being dealt, then they would be dealing I or somebody, and the other kids were there would be Sora, Rustam, they were there too. They would be dealing the cards. And the card would be dealt. Baba would be holding he would be the first to be served. He would hold the cards to his chest like this, and conversation would be going on, and then he would say, and then he would look at his card and say, who has when the dealing was done, is who has the heart of this or the spade of that? Whatever card Baba wanted to bid, he would ask openly, who has this card? And whoever had that card, whether it was in the opposite team, he said, Baba said, come, give me it. And and that person would get up and give Baba his card. And then Baba would give his one of his low cards. And then before anything else, Baba was like a small kid, Baba was, it's my game, it's my Laris. That would be his sign. So L, Laris, it's my game, Laris. Now rub your nose. So Baba's team would get to win. So, but see, the game, beauty of the game, everybody enjoyed it. And the losing team would happily give the cards to Baba. And when things were getting too boring and continuing normally, everybody would be waiting. When is he going to Baba cheat again? When is he going to do that? Huh? Yeah. I cheated. Yeah, my wife prompted me. She said, I cheated. She said, I cheated. Yeah. Baba was.
The rubbing of the noses has that anything to do with wiping away of sanskars?
Oh.
Right? That would.
That is the significance. But why do you pay obeisance to the master? When you bow down, why you put your head down to the feet of the master?
Right.
You leave your sanskars at his feet.
That's right. So therefore, your grandfather was so wise.
It's all outward symbolisms of surrender. And what is surrender? Is to lay down your sanskars before him. Yeah, you pay obeisance. So then when I would. So everybody would want Baba to cheat because that would be fun.
Yeah.
But too serious if everything was going normal. So when is Baba going to cheat again like that? But no one else could do that. One guy, I tried to play the smart guy. Yeah. See, while I was shuffling the cards, and Baba's team would be losing. So how to help the team win? Baba's team win. So then what I would do is I would take it upon myself to give the little edge to them. I would shuffle. I would see. I would know that these cards, these kings and the ace, these are what you need to win. So I would take those first, put them down on my palm, take the other cards, put them on the top of it, and then I would shuffle in front of everybody. And I would be shuffling only the top part of it, not the bottom one. The bottom one, I would take out glass and put it on the top, and then Baba would be the first one to get served. So I would serve those cards, the good cards, winning, and serve it to Baba. Baba would take it, and then as I would keep serving, by the time I would go half the circle, Baba would take one look at this card and says, you just don't bother. Says, it's my game, Laris. Everyone knows this. So I said, oh, Baba didn't notice. So I got emboldened. I said, what? So then I said, but I can't do it every time, because if I do it every time, I'll get caught. So then what happened? I would let the normal games go by, and then again, when that opportunity would come, after a few hands would be dealt, again I would do it. And then, but same thing would happen. By the time I would finish dealing the card, Baba would say, don't bother. And this went on for 2-3 days. I was feeling that I could give Baba a winning hand anytime I wanted. I'm not getting caught. No one else is picking on too. Not just Baba, no one else is picking up. So just when I'm getting a little cocky, Baba then looks at me and says, I gave him a card. And then he looks at it and then he says, are you cheating? Baba is saying, are you cheating? So I am now taken aback. I got caught. And then with a twinkle in his, you are cheating, aren't you? So then I said, yes, Baba. He says, come here. So I go there, and then he takes and he does this to me with both his hands. that's a sign of you naughty boy. You shouldn't be doing that. It says now no more. So forgive in what you did, but now no more. So then from that day, but I got caught. Just when I was getting a little cocky, he showed me that he knew it all along. He was playing along with me. You can't get along. The all-knowing one. So that was the game. It was a beautiful game, nice. And Baba enjoyed it. That was the main part of it. He really enjoyed that game. Yeah.
Anyone else with another question? Or shall we let Meherwan call it a night? It's getting late. So
All right, folks.
anyway, anything else you'd like to add, Meherwan, before we close? Or
No, it's very good that you folks get together like this.
we enjoy it, we really do.
Anything that you do that makes you remember him, that is good. Like I said, Baba encourages that very much.
Yes.
It's different ways of this video is something new in the sense that but this is how the future is going to be like. So take use of technology, and
You're bringing us together, right? In his love.
yeah, in his remembrances. That's the purpose.
Yeah.
The more you remember him, the closer we get to him. And it makes it easier for us, life more bearable, and puts things in their perspective. Sometimes we overreact, we do things, but when we remember him at the same time, then we say, it's not really that important, is it? I mean, what can happen at the worst, like that? So you take things in that perspective. It's not the end all be all. So that is what it is. We have to live in this world at the same time. We have to always keep him in the back of our minds. Yeah.
That's right. So with that, we will.
One thing, since we were talking about this morning, this John Meyer, every Sunday morning he sends out this In His Love email. Have you seen those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very beautiful. I enjoy this one. He sent Baba's message from 1955, Merabat Salwas. And since we are talking about remembering Baba and his message, this is what the message was. And I'll read it out. There is only one way to escape this illusion, and that is, I repeat, to take my name, have my remembrance, and love me. This will get you to God. Meher Baba. So he keeps reminding us that again and again.
That's right.
Very important. Two things: remember him, love God, and to remember him. Remembering is easier, loving is more difficult. To love him, we have to keep his wish, to keep his pleasure, to keep him, to do what he would like us to do. So there is more effort in that. But to remember him is easier. But one leads to the other. One leads. So that's what it is.
That's right. Okay, Meherwan. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Meherwan, for sharing all your wonderful stories and experiences. And we
Yeah,
look forward to any time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do enjoy it myself. It brings back these memories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely to be together like this. So thank you.
Thank you, Meherwan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Meherwan. And hello, Zenobia.
Yeah.
Jai Baba. Jai
Jai-
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Jai-
you. Jai Baba. Good
Jai
night.
Baba.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meherwan. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Baba.
Jai
Hey.
Baba.
Hey, Bob.
Okay, I'm going to press the red button.
Ah, that's it.
But then we all disappear.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Nah.
Baba.
Jai Baba, friends.
So thank you, folks. See you next week. Jai Baba. Thank you,
Thank you,
JC.
go ahead.
Thank you,
Oh.
go ahead.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
You too, JC. Thank you.
No, the rest of